Oh yeah, it's being recorded too. Hello.
Hi.
Hey everybody.
Hello. I see familiar names here. Hi, guys. Yay. I'm glad. It's very familiar.
As you jump in, feel free to say hi in the chat. And if you want, you can leave your LinkedIn link as well for people to connect with you. Say who you are, where you're from. Give a big congrats to Vanessa on launch day. Whee!
I will, I can tell you guys my funny jokes that always start class with. My
Oh
favorite
man.
is actually from my son. Why did the chicken, you should put this in the chat. Unless you've heard it in class, then you can't put it in. Why did the chicken cross the park?
Why did the
Let's
chicken
see if
cross
anyone
the
puts it in
park?
the chat.
Oh, we're rolling in. Why did the chicken cross the park?
Yep.
I don't know.
To get to the other slide.
Uh, that's good.
And when you tell a joke like that at the beginning of anything, you can only go uphill.
Oh, people are leaving. No, I'm just kidding. Hey,
Why would people
Karen. Thanks
be
for saying
leaving?
hi.
Hi, Karen.
Based in Dubai, but is coming in from California. Oh, cool. Got some.
I know she'll be there tomorrow. I was so excited to see that. I was so excited to see that.
How many of you were in Vanessa's class?
Let's see, I could probably count.
Hey, Amna.
So far, we have about
Yeah.
four, four,
Four. Lucky folks.
five.
That's great.
Cool.
So we'll give people just another minute to slide in here. I know it's well for some of us it's lunchtime, others it's they're just waking up. Um, so we'll give another minute and then we'll get started. Sound good, Vanessa?
Sounds great to me.
Yeah. So as you jump into the webinar here, feel free to say who you are, where you're from. You can even leave your LinkedIn profile link so people can connect with you.
Yes, this is
Or
cool. I
in
love seeing
Alabama.
this.
Hey, Kathy, that's cool.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
Wow. We should have a contest for who's the farthest.
Saudi Arabia so far. Tiffany, awesome.
Cool.
All right, we have almost 20 people in here.
Hi, Kayla. It's okay if we're close by too.
Yeah, neighbors are
Go
the best.
Sacramento. Go Davis.
Hey, Ray.
Oh, hi. Thanks for coming.
Awesome. All right, let's get started. So first, I just want to introduce Vanessa Errecarte for those who aren't as familiar. I know we have some of your former students here, which is amazing. Vanessa is an award-winning lecturer and marketing consultant who created and teaches one of the nation's only four-credit courses on personal branding, which is why we're here today. Vanessa's new book, uh, Valuable and Visible, covers the this new age of redefining personal branding that's more focused on impact over image. So, in our workshop today, Vanessa is going to teach some of the key frameworks in the book. And also, we are going to have some hands-on exercises. So, keep your phone handy. Don't pay too much attention to it while Vanessa's talking. But at some point, we're going to call on you to grab that phone, and we are going to dive right in to the personal branding work that Vanessa has helped thousands of people take on for their own. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, so Vanessa, with that, I'll hand it off to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ben. I appreciate this so much. I'm very excited to be here today with you all. I think that it's so important that we all have the opportunity to find our voices in this noisy world. And so thank you for giving me this time today. And I hope that it can end up being a treat to yourself. I hope that you come away with a nugget that you can apply right away. And we are going to be doing a hands-on exercise in the moment. So as Ben said, have those phones ready. I am the person who says, yes, we can have phones during the workshop. We need the phones. All right. I am going to share my slides. I always call this the Zoid. Um, One of my students actually named it the Zoid for me. This awkward time where we're getting our slides ready. There we go. We're out of the Zoid now. All right. So actually, a friend of mine named this workshop for me. He said, you know what? You teach people how to build a cringe-free personal brand. And so I stole it for this workshop name because most of us humans, we actually hear the term personal branding and we shy away from it. We think, oh, that's not me. That's not something I want to do. I don't like personal branding either in the definition that we've had for many, many years. So today I'd like to do a little bit of myth busting of what personal branding really is. And I would like to show you a better way, not only that doesn't involve self promotion, but that travels further because the traditional way that we do personal branding anyway, that we've come to learn it, this kind of influencer way, it's actually very hard to scale that. It's actually very forgettable when you leave the room or the social feed. And I'm going to explain why in a moment. And I'm going to give you a framework that actually leads to memorability, repeatability, referrals, and scaling. All right. So, like I said, in the age of AI, especially where we can produce so much content and there's so much messaging out there, we can all drown in the sea of sameness and become forgettable. And this is it was a huge inspiration to write this book. Even prior to AI becoming completely saturated, I started seeing some of the best students in the world just drowning in this sea of noise. And so I became very, very passionate about finding a way to help elevate students and professionals with the same kinds of things that we elevate the best corporate brands with, both strategically and digitally, but doing it with the human, because every single brand started with one human and one idea. The greatest of great brands all started there. And we're going to talk about that today and how it actually scales organizations as well. But that's kind of led to this passion of mine for personal branding, but showing people a really effective way to do it versus how we think we should do it. Because no one's done anything wrong. These incredibly talented students and professionals have actually done everything right. They are excellent. You are excellent. The problem is, in the age of AI, excellence gets categorized. I always tell people competence gets categorized, right? This thing we work so hard to be exactly like that person that people need in these positions, that gets you categorized with everybody else. But the good news is there's frameworks and strategies to become memorable and rise above that noise. It's just that we don't usually formally teach that. And I want to change that because I think that's one of the most important things we need to be teaching in 2026. Okay. So you're not alone in this because I want to start with a story to you about a time that I was trying really, really hard to be invisible. I always thought that in my career, I needed to be really excellent at the thing I did, work really, really hard, and that's how I would get to the top. And I want to introduce you a little bit to my family. So on the left here, you see my son Jack when he was a baby. He's 9 now, almost 10, almost double digits. And I'll never forget an 8 a.m. meeting that I went to when he was 5 days old. My business was scaling quickly. My marketing consulting business, I had employees, I had a lot of clients, and I didn't want to lose momentum. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to take maternity leave. So he's 5 days old. I'm at an 8 a.m. meeting. He's at home with my mother. And the CEO of the client asked me how I was doing. And I told him I was doing great. And he said, how's Jack? And I said, well, Jack's great. Okay, how are you sleeping? Fine. Finally, the CEO said, do you even like your son? And I'm like, oh gosh, I love my son. I miss my son. He's only 5 days old. I hope he's okay. He didn't eat well last night, all the things, right? And later I had a conversation with that CEO and I said, you know, that was really hard for me. I was really afraid that you would think less of me if we spoke too much about Jack, right? And he said, quite the opposite, Vanessa. I've never been more confident in you. Because if you can do this as he's 5 days old, I know you can do anything for me, right? And so that helps soften my view on needing to be so perfect and buttoned up and keep personal and professional life separate, because that's how most of us were trained, right? That's how we do train people is You're buttoned up and professional here, your personal life is here. And we focus really on those professional skills and that professional persona, and it's these two parallel universes. But now it's all congealed, it's all combined, right? We are online more than we are in person, and it spills over. And so 2 years later, something happened when Jack was almost 2, Ella was almost 4, and my daughter went to the ER because we thought she had pneumonia. She had a chest x-ray, and we realized that something was very wrong with her spine. And so we went to see the pediatrician, many referrals later, an orthopedic surgeon, and we realized she had a very rare condition with a simple name, early onset scoliosis, but only 1 in 10,000 children have this. And since only 1 in 10,000 children have early onset scoliosis, the treatment for it is kind of one thing, and that is put a child in a body cast so that you can retrain their spine. Because what happens when the chest cavity is so small at 3 years old is an out of control spine, and Ella's spine was both an S curve, but also rotated inward toward her heart. It can start moving the heart and collapsing lungs, and that's life threatening. And so I'll never forget the moment that she was about to be wheeled away and put under anesthesia, hung in traction to get a first in many of a series of many body casts to correct this condition. And I remember thinking to myself, I wonder what it'll be like not to feel her heart beat against mine for 3 more months when we snuggle. Things like that. I wonder what it'll be like when she's at a pool party and she's dipping her feet in the water and all her friends are splashing around and having fun. And I was upset because actually, when I was little, my sister had cancer. She's fine now, thank goodness. Um, and it was a scary childhood. We were always worried about something, and I didn't want my kids to have to go through this fear that I went through because Ella wasn't sick. She was like bent, we needed to get that fixed, right? And so, but that didn't mean she was unhealthy. And so I decided at that point that I wasn't going to hide who I was anymore because she was the most important thing. And I used my social media skills to say, hi, everybody, this is what we're going through. Can we please call this Ella's superhero shield? And capes started coming in the mail, words started spreading, and something weird happened. I was so scared that looking like more of a human, more of a mother, would somehow take away from my business. But actually, clients started opening up to me more, even trusting me more, seeking me out because I was willing to talk about when things were hard. I was willing to help them through things that were hard. I was willing to understand the work behind the work. And so when I was asking them to do things and teaching them how to scale their marketing, because that was kind of my specialty, always I wanted to go into organizations, train people instead of just outsource. They were able to trust me and connect with me more. And so that was when my personal brand formed on accident. That was when I realized that all of that marketing knowledge that I had, that I was becoming known for, really stuck in people's minds more when they knew a little more about me. Because here's the thing, as people, when we build our brands, we don't need a lizard to sell car insurance or a bunny to sell batteries. We already have the relatability. So today we're going to talk about the magic of taking our knowledge and that relatability and putting it together and forming a brand for ourselves that already has such memorability baked in because of that relatability. I want you now to picture two people, one of them that just seems so talented, so distinguished, and the other one that might have just as many skills, but kind of seems, again, a bit invisible. There's no difference between those two humans. It's just that one learned how to be a little more distinctive. And that person is getting so much of what I wrote on this slide. I always find that as humans, we have this primary dream and the secret dream, right? And the secret dream is something that a lot of people want to step out with, scaling a business, becoming maybe a pundit or a consultant, having maybe some more side opportunities, or even moving up quicker in your organization or your work, maybe even harnessing your employees in a way that helps elevate your organization more. And what I love about the personal brand is it helps us harness both this primary dream and the secret dream. And that person that seems more distinguished, all they're doing is not counting themselves out of this internet that, like I said, we spend more time on than we do in person if we are professionals. I mean, think about it. If we're spending an average of 8 hours and change a day on the internet, and we're sleeping, eating, and going to the bathroom, we are on the internet a lot more than we are in person. And so a lot of us think each week about where we need to be, what meetings we need to go to, what do we need to wear, who do we need to talk to, how do we show up? We don't really put that thought into our online presence weekly. And it's such an easy fix. I think if we do an hour or two a week, in fact, in my book, I even have time estimates for doing this, we can change things so much for ourselves. So I hope you're feeling inspired because today I'm going to teach you the back end of exactly how that one person with the same skills and abilities as you over here becomes distinctive and how you have every right and can join that party right now. So a lot of times when we think about the online space, we think of influencers. I put a picture of Jenna Kutcher over here to the left. She's an influencer. Some of you might know on Instagram. Influencers scale themselves based on trying to gain a lot of followers and exchanging that for money. These influencers spend hours and hours a day online to keep their presence up. And that's actually a full-time job, and that's fine, but that's a whole profession. I'm not asking you to be an influencer. I want you to be like the people I know and that the people I've featured as case studies throughout my work, and certainly in my book. One of them is actually here today, Lisa, in the blue shirt below. She is an optometrist, and she has completely revolutionized the way that we treat dry eye. She started out with an idea. She knew that there was so much more to do and solve, and that eye drops were only treating symptoms. And so she started really turning a lot of these assumptions on its head. Like she would name an underlying condition that dry eye disease might indicate, and she would say, "Would you treat this with eye drops?" And people turned around and listened. Not only did she earn a spot on stage in the optometry profession for many conferences, which, you know, she really represented kind of females in the profession more, something she thought was missing before. She has helped educate so many other physicians that we estimated her ripple effect to be somewhere in the neighborhood of over 7 million patients. And it's such a gift now that she goes and for half of her time and income goes and educates people about better ways to treat people with a condition that can become so debilitating. There's people like Taylor, who has worked for some of the nation's top and biggest CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg in communications. And he said, you know what? I've always been communicating for others, but I love the outdoor space. I'm a wilderness photographer, and I that's my dream. That's where I want to go. And so Taylor started using his personal brand, developing his personal brand. And not only did he publish a book of all of his photography, but he found a counterintuitive point of view with how to present it. And so that book did really well, but also now he is the communications director for the National Public Lands Foundation, and he is doing such good work for an area that really needs it. And he's walking the halls of Congress so often. And then we have Mary Saul. Mary Saul is a lobbyist, and she said that as a first generation Latina woman, you don't see a lot of people like her in these spaces. And she wants to empower people not only to enter those spaces, first gen Latina women, she wants to empower them to enter those spaces, also stay in those boardrooms. And so she started a podcast about financial literacy, showing up bold as who you are, something that many people like her are taught not to do. And she has influenced so many people. So these are the kinds of brands that I want to teach you about today, because these are the kinds of things that you can unlock with your service first personal brand. And why I call it a service first personal brand is these three people, their success came from teaching people other things. How cool is that? They got to transform so many lives on their way to opening doors and gaining credibility. And that's what I love about this method. So let me explain it to you a little bit. I don't want the traditional model. I don't want you to have to perform every day to get likes and followers. I don't want you to have to feel like you have to be Malcolm Gladwell before you can step out there. And there's another way, right? So that's how we traditionally think of this top of industry thought leadership or these influencers. But for service first personal branding, it kind of combines the personality, the relatability of the influencer with information you already know and gives you an opportunity to, at any moment, with the knowledge you already have, step out and brand yourself just like we do in corporate. So this is going to be idea driven, contribution based, strategic, and relatable. Here's how corporate brands work as compared to how we think personal brands should work. It is a myth that posting more gives us better outcomes. Anyone can do that now, especially with AI. It's a myth that followers give us credibility. There's a lot of people that lurk online, not a lot of people that do things for people. It's okay if you have a dozen followers and two might be willing to do something for you compared to hundreds of thousands who are lurking. High volume of talking, of speaking, of showing up online, we think that gives us more of an impact. But again, anyone can do that these days. So what do corporate brands do? Why, when you run out of something or you need a new pair of shoes, why are you ready to buy a brand before you even go shopping for it? Why do those brands create for themselves what we call a pull marketing effect? Well, it's because they understand that their product is not actually the offer that their ideal customer, that person they want to purchase from them, or that person you want in your audience as a personal brand, they understand that that person's looking for something different than the product. Let's say you need a new pair of running shoes. They understand that you want to feel like an athlete too. They understand that you want to feel healthy. They understand that you want to feel like you can show up in those spaces as well. That's how they're speaking to you as the customer. All the specs and features of their product, that's a safety net below that customer who's about to step on a tightrope and give someone some of their time and money, right? That offers what is enticing them because it's based on the transformation they see. That customer is only going to go check their credentials when they're maybe about ready to buy, and they will naturally check the credentials to make sure that the product is what it says it is and matches how it's making the customer feel. And so in personal branding, we think that we need to give these updates and achievements all the time. I'm so excited to tell you this and that, when really people want you to be telling them, what can you do for them? What are you excited to do for them? And then they'll naturally seek out those qualifications and learn more about you. And you don't have to promote that because you don't like it anyway. Think about it. You already know the car you're going to buy. That's why the window sticker is folded up into all those little squares and taped underneath. Okay. So we're going to touch on that power of transformation in the customer because someone has to know you before they like you and like you before they trust you. This is marketing 101. You've probably heard this before. And so your audience members, to gain that trust, if you can show them something that helps, all of a sudden they trust you. And think about people who you trust. You remember them. You actually repeat what they've done for you to other people. You might even refer them to other people. The other people you repeat them to might refer them. That's how we scale in marketing. That's how the best corporate brands scale. They become memorable and then they become referred. I always say marketing is not about driving growth, it's about driving memorability. That memorability is what drives the growth. Okay. So, how do you become memorable? Can anyone tell me in the chat what they see that is a little different about this post that I pulled from Instagram on the right of my screen? Go ahead, don't be shy. Anyone, anyone? What surprises you about the posts to the right here? All right. Well, it's okay. We can be tired during a lunch break. Um, if you see all the bullet points, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Tiffany. It says if your child is overweight, yes, absolutely. If your child is overweight or underweight, um, it says to do exactly the same thing. And I will tell you, when my kids were toddlers, my daughter was underweight, and my son always struggled knowing when to finish eating, right? And the pediatrician always said, have a non-fat milk and a full fat milk and get him up and have her sit longer. And mealtime just became this chaos for our family. And my husband and I are just like, this isn't what it's supposed to be about. You know, you dream about this dinner table together. And it was just stress for us, right? So this stopped my scroll. Why did this stop my scroll? Because this person, Jennifer Anderson, told me to do something differently than I'd ever heard before. We read 105,000 words a day online. That's the equivalent of a novel. And so whether or not you know you're consuming this info, you are, and your brain is trying to siphon it out all the time. And so when someone can tell you something that you don't already know, they automatically become an expert and they trigger your brain to say, I need to look at that. We can find these counterintuitive ideas by what I call the Fab Four question set. Think about how your ideal customer, who is someone you want in your audience, how do they currently feel? How do they want to feel? What counterintuitive or surprising thing do they need to do to get there? And how will they feel when they get there? You can't go through these four questions without framing what you know toward your audience. And so I always say, think about what you know that you can teach someone about, and think about how you do it a little bit differently. Your primary audience is going to be the people you teach. So, a good friend of mine once wanted to move up in sales. So, he taught peer salespeople how to have a softer, more effective close. And he had all these counterintuitive things he had learned from his career as a teacher that he would teach people. And then the secondary audience are the people that may promote you and open doors for you. Okay. So you're speaking to this primary audience that you're helping, and a secondary audience is noticing you and giving you opportunities. So, how do we find this counterintuitive thing? Because so many of you are sitting here right now going, I don't have that counterintuitive thing, but you do because you know something. This is where the frameworks come in. So, today we're going to create your first thought leadership post, and I'm going to help you tease out the counterintuitive thing. And we're going to do it in three parts. We're going to start with finding our wait, what moment. That's the scroll stopping moment that I just showed you. Then we're going to talk about frameworks and story lead-ins and put it all together. Okay. So let's first find our scroll stopping point of view. My truth framework is how we get to what you see on the right. So I say in 5 steps, you want to first identify tropes. Then you want to identify the real problem. So tropes is something, this is what everybody thinks in the industry, right? Everybody thinks managing a product is about this, but the real problem is they're missing this, right? Define those two things. A better way to go about this is this. That's the third step. That's your understanding of a better solution. Then tested reasoning. That's evidence. Either you have results to share of people you've worked with, you have observations to share, you might have research to share. This is, again, that safety net you're bringing in underneath that tightrope. You're giving people a reason to believe. You can bring in a credential or two here as well. And then how to act. We often miss this. And how to act isn't buy this guide now. How to act is try this. Jennifer Anderson in the post with these words here, in her caption, she said, try this for 5 days. Your child is not going to get, so skinny that they waste away or so heavy that they, have a huge health change in 5 days. So try it and see what happens. And I did, and I trusted her, and I remembered her, and I repeated her, and I referred her. So that trust is what, again, drives the growth. But you have to ask people to do something to gain the trust. And it could be very simple, like, next time you're thinking about this, try to reframe it in this way and see if that feels different or changes your outcome. It can be simple. Okay. In fact, I always tell people, if you're going to reframe the Big Bang Theory for me, it's going to take you a minute to explain it. If you're going to reframe something simple for me, we all kind of understand that. Tony Robbins once said, knowledge is not power. Knowledge is potential power. Action is power. We got it. We stopped our scroll. Show me how to turn my knowledge into action. Simple scales. Don't worry about being too simple. So once you've done these 5 steps, and I encourage you to write them down on a piece of paper, and I actually have a workbook that I'm going to send out to you after this that has space for you to go step by step. Once you have those 5 sentences, start thinking about formats of everybody thinks blank, but it's really blank. I always say everybody thinks personal branding is about you. Everybody's wrong. It's really about what you can do for someone else. Other things that work, and you've seen this everywhere online and you stop for it, and there's a reason, right? They're signaling that you're going to learn something new. We're all wrong about blank, and followed up by something like blank is a better way. Filling in your thoughts here. Okay. Now, It's hard to come up with hooks. We actually spend a lot of time in that in my class, but now we have AI, which can help us. But here's something that I want to point out to you about AI. So many people go and ask AI, please write me something about, taking care of one child that's overweight and one child that's underweight. And that output is exactly what most people want because AI is a machine and the large language model is trained to look for common patterns and give you more of those because most of the 2.5 billion people that prompt AI a day click away after they get the most common answer. So if we were sixes before in our content, AI might make us sound like an eight, but if we're tens before, it's going to smash us into the eight as well because all those distinctive ideas are gone. So instead of using AI to actually write the thing for us, I encourage you to use it as a thinking partner to get this counterintuitive point of view. We used to have to brainstorm with other people to do this. Now we have this AI friend to do it with. So let's use it to our advantage. So if we were to enter those 5 parts of the truth framework into the AI tool of your choice and say, give me 20 counterintuitive hooks that summarize this point of view, all of a sudden you're going to see something there and you're going to say, you know what? I actually have always done it in that different way. I actually do think differently when it comes to this. And so you're on your way now. Now you're that person that's same age, same skill, but distinctive, just like that person over here. You just needed to put it into the right framework. And again, now you have this thinking partner that we often forget about. I mean, 2.5 billion queries a day, that is so much. That is so much information. Okay. And you get a lot richer information if you do that. Now, there's a lot of different ways to tease out, and I see the chat, right? Like you're yelling at your AI, this and that. There's so many different ways to tease out really good information, but you have to start upstream with putting your own thoughts in and guide it away. You can also say, tell me something else I'm missing. And in the workbook I'm going to send to you, I have all that coming to you because I want AI to bring you to that 10, even that 12. Okay. By going upstream and question. I always say question the question. And here's what happens when you do. So you see when you search for something on AI, you get this first paragraph on the right, and all these distinctive ideas are not distinctive, excuse me, common ideas are smashed together. Okay. And you have this whole mess of websites that they cite. But then as things thin out on the next lines, you see AI saying things like, well, geez, Tony Robbins said knowledge is power, but I can't put him in the first paragraph because he says that that's not quite right. Action is power. So I'm going to give him his own line. And that's how in the age of AI, you become the line worth highlighting in search. That's how you've always been the line worth highlighting to to stop a scroll in social media. And that's what's always made us lean forward to listen to that interesting person in human conversations more. All right. So after you find your point of view, we want to make it relatable with a little bit of a story. And how do we tell a story and make it relatable? We want to start right in the middle. Gone are the days of beginning, middle, and end, like you learned in school. The internet starts in the messy middle. We don't have time to get context. You want to go right to that problem, right to that time that I wondered if I would feel my daughter's heartbeat again. You want to zoom in there and bring people in. Okay. Now, your story can be pretty simple. I actually have someone that formed a brand based on dressing more comfortably as women for the corporate world. And her I remember moment when she went to teach a framework to her audience was that last time that her stiletto broke in the drainage, in the drainage grate, she couldn't take it anymore. And she was going to teach women another way. So your story can be fun, it can be playful, but the point is this. We remember a little tiny story lead in 30% more because our brain releases oxytocin when we start hearing stories. That's the love hormone. That's why you feel all good when you eat a piece of chocolate. And so that's why kids are mesmerized when you start reading to them. So what's your I remember moment? Maybe think about that. How does it relate to something you might teach? Write that down. Jennifer Anderson says, I remember when my own son was falling off the growth charts and I'm a dietitian. How could I let that happen? Okay. Very simple. So you have your wait, what moment. You have your I remember moment. The last component is a framework. Okay. So when we create intellectual property, which in business is things we trademark, sell, build businesses on, it starts with framework. You already have steps for which you do everything in daily life, and you have steps that you can divide your knowledge into. When I say remember, repeat, recommend, that's me putting 3 R's on words that mean what I think drives the marketing cycle. You can do this too. And again, AI is also your friend here because you can write out exactly the 3 steps you want and say, put it together in a word like lead, 3 to 5 steps, I should say. Over 5 steps, you have 2 frameworks. But 3 to 5 steps, like my truth framework, right? Figure out a way to put those 3 to 5 steps into something that either spells a word, has the same first letter. You get it. You've seen this everywhere. These aren't magic. These are just people going one step further and packaging their ideas, right? You don't want all the rice sitting there on the table. People don't buy that, but they do buy it in a nice package that tells you about the moments that you'll have with your family when you're eating it. So, one thing here that we could have added to this post, right? I made it up myself, is just the meals framework. This could have been recycled into that. And again, it just elevates knowledge a little bit and makes it more memorable. So now when you put these 3 things together, you have your story lead in, and you've seen this before, your wait, what moment is your segue. Why am I telling you that I was devastated when my own son fell off the growth chart with a dietitian mother? Because I know that we overdo it when we come to teach when it comes to teaching kids how to eat, and it actually makes it worse. So here's 3 steps you can take today. In her case, I believe it was 5. Here's 5 steps you can take today. Just try it and see the outcome you get. Okay. So that's how that thought leadership post works. And you put that post once a week on LinkedIn to start. Now, we live in this video age where video travels a lot further than things we do in writing. And so I always talk about the video lead in, and I call it the VABlog, video and blog. So when you have written words, you have great search engine optimization with the written word. And then YouTube actually is owned by Google. So when you add the video, you're covering all aspects of social algorithms, search, everywhere your information needs to travel. You have it in the 2 formats that travel the best. So what do? You take your phone, you face it to your face, and you say, I'm Vanessa. Today I want to teach you a better way to brand yourself, or something like that. Just enough to have that video snippet. So no one can see you. You're on mute. You're automatically on mute because we're in webinar mode. So I want you now to all pick up your phone, and I want you to take the next minute, turn your phone towards you, put it into self-record mode, and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and today I'm going to teach you about whatever it was you identified. I'll wait. I'll wait for about a minute for you to do that. Someone is sitting with their phone on their desk, waiting for a minute to pass. Pick up that phone. I can't see you. No one can see you. When we do this in person, I always have a rule: you can't look at your neighbor. You have to just talk into your phone. 30 more seconds. Got your videos? Love it. And so Jeff says he needs a haircut. Thanks for volunteering that, Jeff. I need to tell you something. I have research in my book. Do you know that your haircut need converts better than anything else? As humans, we have researched this, and we know that if I had spinach in my teeth right now, if there was something flawed or imperfect about me, I actually convert more to you because that signals authenticity and that you're speaking with a human. This is actually new stuff that we crave because everything has become so hard to discern online. So if you were shy about making that video, I just want you to know that everything you're shy about is what is going to help you travel. I mean, I certainly want to see someone show up as a human and teach me something. Then I want to see a synchronized perfect dance. All right. So now we have our first thought leadership post. And my weekly goal for you is do this once a week on LinkedIn, this 3-part post with a video lead in. Eventually, you're going to have enough to, like, let's say you do that for 3 months. Now you have 12 thought leadership posts if you're doing it once a week. Now, all of a sudden, you have an active blog on a website. And we know research wise that active websites convert so much better than passive ones. So you can create your own website. And here's another thing we do as humans that corporations never do. Corporations never let Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg own their audiences. However, as humans, we do that all the time. We think we're building these great audiences online, but with the stroke of an algorithm, that can all change. And so I always encourage people, buy your own URL. Many of you right now don't even own it. So first of all, you're controlling your identity online when you buy your own URL. If I got a text right now, despite how important this workshop is to me that I'm here with you, but if that text said someone just stole your identity, you need to come to the police station right now, I would go. That would be very concerning for me. But online, we don't think of that a lot. Okay. And I want you to think of that because we need to control our identity online too. So if you don't own your own URL, I encourage you to buy it. Um, and start creating your own website. And simple websites actually convert the best. And so again, I teach you how to do this exactly step by step in my book. And it elevates you so much because most personal brands don't take this step. And then that gives you the ability to stay in touch with your audience. You can have that audience opt in to email, to text, just like corporations do. And all of a sudden, you're building this mini little business for yourself that can scale into whatever you want it to scale into. Even if it's just a newsletter where you talk to people about things that you're working on and how you're elevating your organization. People travel so much further than organizations. Look at LinkedIn. When a corporation posts something, you never see it. But when your people do, you see it all the time. Managers all the time are trying to get visibility for their organizations, and it's the people who drive it. So once a week, you can start expanding this thought leadership because if you have a website, eventually you're going to have to post a video lead in on YouTube to host it. Now you get the passive search engine optimization from YouTube. You're not trying to be a YouTube star, but only 9% of corporate types show up with a YouTube account. So that's pretty cool, actually. You stand out big. And then I always recommend Instagram. Instagram is really growing as a thought leadership platform, and that auto post to Facebook. So some of that audience that is still kind of taking a minute to get from Facebook to some of these other platforms, you catch them too. And you can see how now you're in all these parts of the internet. You can add whatever social platforms you feel comfortable with when you're ready. Okay. And again, people worry, they're like, well, what if I have 3 people on my email list? Great. That is your lab. I always tell people your first followers, your first people on your list in your database, those are the people that care the most about you. They're going to help tell you when you say something that really resonates. And they're also going to tell you when you say something that doesn't resonate in the kindest way. So by the time you grow and scale, not to a huge audience, but just that right sized audience. If you look at any of my platforms, I don't have huge audiences, but I've never wanted for a client. Okay. So again, as you scale into those like bigger right sized audiences, I'll say, you become so refined in your message. Your message is automatically more memorable at that moment because you've practiced it. So there's absolutely nothing to lose to do this. It elevates you, it elevates your organization, and it gives you time to practice. All right. So I teach this in 4 parts. We don't have time for the 4 parts today, but we certainly did a little work on establishing our vision. You quickly thought of something you could teach me a little different. We spoke a little bit about packaging, then the cadence of putting things online. Once we get used to that once a week, there are ways to do social media even once a day in a way that's not exhausting and doesn't cause burnout. We call that content batching. So we talk about that too. And then finally, that natural growth. Do you want to go for a speaking gig someday? Do you want to publish something? Do you want to start a new faction within your corporation that serves this niche that maybe they didn't realize before? That's kind of that fourth component of that secret dream of where the brand can go. So that's the deep dive I take you in. I take you on in my book. And, if you've had me, you know that we do that in class. So first, I want to shift your paradigm on what personal branding is, which we've done. And then second, I want to give you every single step so that there's no secrets to how these distinctive people seem so special and distinctive. Now, it's some frameworks, it's some brainstorming. I don't want you to get stuck in this moment that a lot of people get stuck in, and that is John Turnus. This was in the New York Times last month. If you read some of this, John Turnus, a low profile but influential executive at Apple. The question, if you go down to the next part, the question for Apple is whether the company needs an innovator or another deft manager. Now, don't get me wrong, a deft manager is actually great at managing people and moving organizations forward and keeping profit growing at incremental rates. But John Turnus is an innovator too, or he wouldn't make it where he made it. But we meet these moments sometimes, these moments come to us before we're ready. If we had been working on our personal brands all along, John Turnus wouldn't have to worry about people deciding who he is for him. So much people, like kind of right now, you have millennials, Gen X, that are getting these first leadership positions, and all of a sudden you have to shift, right? So, is this great for people seeking jobs, trying to pivot their careers, all those things? Yes, but it's also great for that older manager, that older executive where they've never actually been taught that they need to be distinctive. And all of a sudden, the job switches from being excellent and doing every great task you can to needing to be distinctive and be a thought leader. And organizations flounder with this as well because all their executives are being painted in ways that they know may not be true as well. So it benefits the human and the organization when we can focus on this. And so I also teach organizations how to help their employees brand themselves and how to create a program. Some great organizations that have done this are organizations like Nugget, Reebok, Adobe, Starbucks. They all have these great ways that they teach their employees how to elevate the company and their own brands at the same time. And it's such a win-win. It creates such great employee engagement, such desire to promote the brand because the employee's benefiting and so is the company. That's the beauty of service first. So I love actually working with both individuals and conferences, things like that, and organizations with this concept. All right, parting thoughts, and then we have time for questions. One thing I want you to do is I want you to seriously write down, if only I blank, then I could blank. That first blank is that thing you think you need before you become a thought leader. Disney started with a mouse and an idea. I'm so glad that Disney didn't wait until it had a theme park to brand itself. Okay. Coca-Cola started as a tonic, didn't wait for Coke Zero. Here, these are great brands we would have missed out on if they were afraid to step out because they thought they needed something more. So now that you've written that down, I want you to cross out what you think you need and start from where you're at. If you think you need to be a physical therapist before you can talk about kinesiology, what do you do right now that makes you know a little bit about it? And what do you do a little differently about it? How can you brainstorm with the truth framework to make it very distinctive? And how can you give yourself the courage to step out right now? Because someone else is. Someone else is, and I'm so tired of it not being you. All right, so you're not waiting for more knowledge, you're waiting to feel ready. So you have what you need. You'll never actually feel ready because here's the thing, imposter syndrome is actually a signal. So I'm mid 40s. I grew up playing the Oregon Trail, and pioneers actually died of cholera a lot, right? Because they were going into new territory. When we start speaking about something in a new way, we are a pioneer, and that is scary. You should feel like an imposter when you do this. And that is a signal to help and to share your ideas because if you hold them back, you become unintentionally selfish. Those people that I introduced to you earlier in the call, they have done such beautiful things for the world in their professions. I can't even imagine if they had held that back. So treat imposter syndrome as a signal. You don't need more confidence. You just need one person that you need to help. Everybody can think of one person they need to help. Put that face right now, right up front in your brain. Start with what you know, start with who you are and the impact you can already make. Distinction, I hope you understand now that it's learned. There is nothing magic about it. We have this myth out there that leaders are born that way. They're not. No one's born a leader. No one's born so distinctive and poetic. We're all born in the same way, and we have to learn how to walk and talk like everybody else. The internet doesn't belong to the loudest people, the most helpful voices. It belongs to all of us. So I want you to become visible for your value. I want you to be that line worth highlighting everywhere, in person, online, because the more you practice this, the more you question the question, the more every time you go to show up, you say, What am I missing? What's the real problem? You're just going to start sounding like that person everyone wants to listen to. So if you're local, I have an event tomorrow night. It's sold out. We added a few tickets actually. So there's a QR code up there. On Friday, I have a LinkedIn Live where I'm talking to my developmental editor about how we brought this book to life. We went from classroom to book, which was a nice journey. And then stay in touch. So here's all my socials, my website, vanessaerrecarte.com. I will send you that workbook I said I would send you so you'll have my email. I really want you to stay in touch. There's no higher honor for me than helping with brand formation. It is my life's passion. And for many years, it was my secret dream. Thank you very, very much for your time. I'm excited to answer questions now.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Round of applause. Woo! That was awesome. And so
Virtual
we have two,
snaps.
yeah, virtual snaps. So some good questions rolling in. Tiffany, but first, I actually want to give a shout out. She had a great line. She said, being ready is a decision, not a feeling, which is
Yep.
great. Thanks for that. And Tiffany asks, how long should our videos be? And I'm sure this is like channel dependent, but like, do you have any
Yeah.
guidance on that?
Well, I think that under 2 minutes is always safe because you go over 2 minutes and all of a sudden you're not a YouTube short anymore when you post it on YouTube. And the value of being a YouTube short is it gets played more on the buffer of different videos people may be watching. And then it also happens to be a nice rule for every platform out there of what we're willing to watch. And I also like it because of the analytics. So if you can say, these people watched halfway, these people watched more. If you have an 8-second video, you can't really tell who's highly interested and who's not. So you can't tell, according to your message, what the watch time is. And so if you're kind of that long video type person, don't worry about going up to 2 minutes. But if you're a short video person, we know that that does really convert. So you may be giving up some analytics, but at the same time, like we do know shorter is better. So if you're just introducing yourself in the topic and that's what you're comfortable with, that's fine too. The one thing is don't go over 2 minutes. And I'd like to add one thing to this answer that's slightly off topic, but we all think there's so many baked in rules to this. And usually there's just some very basic rules that if you start with, you find your own rhythm, you find what people follow the most, And so that's what I try to do. I try to really simplify the one golden rule, don't go over 2 minutes. And then you can find your voice. And I do have some exercises where you can really, if you sound mechanical on videos, if you think you need to read a script, I have an exercise actually in the book that people can go through and really learn how to be natural on videos, which I think is why most people are intimidated. It's tough when the camera goes on.
Yeah, great. Thank you. All right, Jeff Greenfeld, excuse me, has another good question, and it's in a similar vein. It's about I'll just ask, how much is too much posting? How do I avoid oversaturating my audience?
That's such a good question. So the other day, one of my employees said, I can't believe I missed this post that I actually put up for you in launch mode. I usually do all my own posting. Launch mode's been a little different with the book. So I've been having my employee help me a lot with that. And she's like, I put this post up and then it didn't show up on my feed. I can't believe it. Like my algorithm's trained to see you. So don't assume that people are seeing everything you're putting out. You want to be repetitive. I always say there's beauty in saying the same thing in a different way over and over again. I think 2 posts a day is fine, especially on something like Instagram and some of the more business to consumer profiles. LinkedIn, the gold standard is about once a day. At a max, after once a day, the algorithm kind of has to get used to it. There's a lot of people that do well with more than 1 post a day, but the cool thing about LinkedIn is actually a post a week takes you really, really far. That's why I have people start there because LinkedIn's algorithm goes more toward engagement and deepness of thought. They actually did a big overhaul in August 2023 to their algorithm so that they could be more distinct from B2C platforms. And so the cool thing is the people that are sharing these distinctive thoughts, they are traveling more on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's algorithm is meant to mimic how we treat the most interesting people in our lives. And that is we listen to them more and they show up in our feeds more, right? So once a week on LinkedIn, that's very easy to get by with. All platforms, I say, start there. Up to once a day on LinkedIn. Don't worry about twice a day on others, but I want you to avoid burnout. That's why once a week, and then eventually you can break it down into once a day. And then I stop there as far as what I think you should do or what I would ask you to do.
Yeah, great question. The social media platforms won't let you overpost. Like they will just suppress it if people
Hmm.
are tired of hearing from you. Okay, another great question here. What is one mistake you see job seekers make when they try to stand out online? So job
Hmm.
seekers specifically, that's a great question.
Yeah. So it is that fear that we have to, how do I say this? I think listening to me speak to you today and thinking about the idea of doing this sounds really cool. But when you're a job seeker and you go to actually do this, there's a lot of panic over, but if I don't slip in these five things, they won't want me. But again, it's about creating that pull marketing effect, right? And so a lot of times people try to smush in those five extra credentials, those five extra steps they take. The posts get really long, and it sounds repetitive. And again, you get stuck in that sea of sameness. So think about it this way, you know, a post that says most people who are, civil engineers go take these three steps. And this is where that actually harms something. This step is something I don't agree with. I've done it so many times in my career, but I think it's better to do it this way. I want to go see who you are. You're so interesting to me that I want to click on your profile. Let me do that. Trust me because you want me to trust you, right? So lean into that trust. Okay. So the biggest mistake you can do is kind of go back to that sea of sameness and that panic that, oh, here's my one chance for them to see me. I have to add all this all the time. Because the thing is, it's hard. Visibility is gained over time. So the chances that that one post is a make or break is so low anyway. That's why this is a system and a routine, number one. And number two, actually adding those credentials, it sometimes kind of takes you down into that sea of sameness, right? You're doing what everybody else does at that point. Let your distinction speak for you. I promise it works. I would never sit here and I mean, I just very selfishly, I don't want to be wrong, right? Like if I didn't have all kinds of research and all kinds of data to back this up, and if I didn't know so deeply in my heart that I just went and wrote a whole book about it, that this works, right? I would not be saying this to you because you're why I'm doing this. I want you to be noticed, and I know that you're struggling with it.
Great. Okay. Might have time for one or two more questions. Next question is, what about the LinkedIn profile section, the bio? So you can think about it on LinkedIn, on Instagram or Twitter, but like, how do you optimize that part? Is that an important part of the personal branding packaging?
Yeah, so I think a sentence that says your mission of what you do
Mm,
is effective for a lot of people, if you can find that hook sentence that that really stands out. But that's where again the authority comes in. So having that traditional, title of who you are is great. Now, one thing I don't recommend though is saying something like job seeker or open to opportunities. The open for work badge is one thing. There's a lot of pros and cons to that I think are equal on each side, but saying something like looking future product manager or something. We
mhm.
don't hire people for the future. We hire people for who they are right now, right? Like you need to cross out that first line. So that's what I caution people against. That's when we start seeing issues. And so if you are currently in a position where you're looking for work because you don't have a position, instead of saying that, say something like on a mission to empower every blank to blank, right? Like how can you put kind of your hook in there that describes who you are and what you're seeking without saying that you're seeking it. Otherwise, putting your title and filling out that bio, again, that's just your credential deck. And that is what people are going to go look for and find you for.
Yeah, great. Okay, that's time. Thank you so much, everyone. You will be receiving an email from me. My name's Ben, by the way. I forgot to introduce myself. But you'll be receiving an email from me with the recording of this session so you can go back and listen to your favorite parts, and also the Truth Framework worksheet that Vanessa made for you. So be on the lookout for that. hopefully coming to you later today, if not first thing tomorrow once we have the recording up. It was great to see everybody. It's been such a great crowd. Vanessa, thank you so much. And
Thank you so
congratulations again on the
much.
launch. You're going to help so many
Thank you.
people. This book is going to do so much good for the world. So thank you for sharing your expertise with us.
Well, thank you, Ben. Thanks for hosting. You are wonderful. You are a gift to the book world in helping folks get kind of that information out there that they want. So thank you very much. And thank you all so much for coming and giving me some of your time today. I'm honored to be on your journey.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Karen. Karen says, congrats. Thanks, David.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Oh, thank you so much.
Awesome. Cool.
All right.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Allison. Thanks, Heather. And Liza's here too. Hey, Liza.
Yeah.
Pull her in. Awesome. Um,
Cool. Cool.
yeah, I'm just gonna. All right.
All
Okay.
right.
That was awesome. Congrats. Yeah. Nice
Thank
job.
you so much. Phew, got past the first thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll let you go.
Congrats.
That was good. Um, yeah, yeah, tons of activity. That was cool.
Okay. Cool. Well, and when we send it out, we'll send it to everyone that signed up, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And some people specifically said like, "Hey, I can't make it," but
I want the recording. Cool. Yeah.
yep.
No, I mean, for
So
a free workshop, I think about half is a good number. So,
that's typically what we get. So
yeah.
that's right
Yeah.
on. Liza, I'm gonna send this recording to you
Okay.
as soon as